Welcome to the second part of this series, Emotions Are Not Your Enemy. In the first episode, which I linked in the description, I shared why it's important to understand the difference between emotions and feelings, and how acknowledging and turning towards our emotions and feelings is important for many different aspects in our life. Today I will address the consequences of our tendency to repress and suppress emotions, and I will also share and discuss several tools and techniques that you can use to develop coping skills, increase your emotional resilience, and thus improve your overall quality of life. We have all heard or even been advised that being level-headed is important and being in control of our emotions is great. And I agree that it's important to have tools to manage negative feelings, and that in certain situations it's important to put negative feelings aside for a while to manage a task at hand. What I don't agree with, however, is habitually repressing and suppressing uncomfortable feelings. For decades now, the benefits of positive thinking have been highlighted in studies as a way to improve mental health. However, there is also sufficient evidence by now that toxic positivity leads to isolation, low self-esteem, and a gap in communication and in connection. In general, the healthy expression of uncomfortable feelings is alien to most of us, and we don't really learn how to do that skillfully. But what we learn instead is to suppress emotions and feelings, to conform and to perform as required, and often against our deepest sense of self. So this comes at a high cost for our mental and physical well-being. Feelings and emotions such as anger, resentment, fear, or sadness trigger several physiological reactions in the body, including the release of adrenaline and cortisol. So when emotions are suppressed, they get trapped in the body. They lead to tissue change, a lower immune system, and a heightened nervous system response. Now, one of the usual ways of ignoring the frustration, for example, about an annoying coworker or having been treated unfairly by our partner, is that we look for distractions. For example, scrolling through social media or watching mindlessly TV, or we overeat or overdrink. And bottling up emotions sooner or later leads to an uncontrollable outburst, to anxiety, depression, or physical issues such as diabetes or heart disease, or challenges with weight. Pretending that everything is okay when it's clearly not often leads to resentment to the other and for ourselves, and the feeling of not being understood, the dissatisfaction and the withdrawal from the relationship. Not being able to talk about things that are important to us, that we do feel strongly about, makes us feel estranged, not only from ourselves, but also from others around us. And especially when we learned as children that expressing emotions may lead to rejection or even punishment, we will rather suppress our feelings in a relationship so that we don't have to feel rejected or abandoned again. Constantly suppressing what we feel leads to an increased reactivity, irritation, passive aggressiveness. We might blame others and find fault in them. It leads to outbursts or withdrawal. Over time, being out of touch with what we feel leads to an inner numbness, a disconnection from our body, and we live more in our head and find it more and more difficult to relate to others. And to nurture and create lasting relationships, empathy is essential. The psychologist Alfred Adler described empathy as seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. And this becomes increasingly difficult once we created a wall around our heart, when we pretend for too long that everything is fine with us and we're not able anymore to share our feelings and our emotions openly. When we don't allow ourselves to feel what's going on within, it's also challenging, of course, to be present for others and their feelings and emotions. Not addressing your emotional state in a healthy way leads to a continuous state of high arousal and high cortisol levels in the body. And studies have shown that suppressing emotions can lead to sleep disorder, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, digestive health issues, diabetes, memory loss, and a range of mental illnesses. Therefore, I would like to share a few tools and techniques that I found helpful, and I hope they will help you to develop emotional resilience too. Being mindful when there is a rising wave of emotions isn't easy, especially when we habitually shy away from uncomfortable feelings. It is counterintuitive to turn towards a feeling when all we want is not to feel it at all. It gets even worse when a whole plethora of feelings and sensations is present, when the external environment isn't conducive to support us in dealing with our inner state, and when we're short of losing our countenance. And here are some suggestions to become comfortable of being a guest house to our emotions and feelings, as Rumi suggested in his poem, The Guest House. Taking time to sense how your body feels during the day helps to establish a regular practice of sensing inward. A few times a day you might want to pause. How do you feel? Where do you feel that feeling or the emotion in the body? And how would you describe this feeling or sensation? It is easier to react than to respond with awareness, especially when we get enmeshed in a feeling. Mindfulness helps us to reduce living on autopilot and instead supports turning toward our inner landscape with curiosity and without judgment. And with practice, it's possible to be aware when a feeling arises, to consciously pause and to observe what is happening. Naming the emotion and the sensation in the body creates a little bit of space and helps reduce the intensity of the experience and brings you back to a more connected state. See if you can develop the capacity to acknowledge and accept the feeling or emotion that is present right now. You don't need to like it, and it may feel uncomfortable, yet accepting that you're upset or angry or annoyed helps you find relief. So take a moment to sense how this feeling is expressed in your body and simply be the observer. Imagine you helped in the garden and there is a splinter that got stuck under the skin. You wouldn't just recommend to apply some anti-inflammatory cream, right? The splinter needs to be removed for the whole area to heal again. And there are many regulation techniques out there to help with intense emotions, and my advice is to try a few to see which ones do help you the most. The key is consistency. Practice one at least for a couple of weeks before deciding whether it's for you or whether you want to explore another. The first one that I recommend is EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, and that tapping helps the nervous system to release stress and negative emotions by tapping on specific meridian points on the body. So tapping these points in a specific sequence with some affirmative statements easily reduces the emotional charge and makes one feel more equanimous. EFT helps with stress reduction, and it diffuses the intensity of these uncomfortable feelings and emotions, so one has more clarity and more inner space. It has been proven to support the healing journey of clients working on anxiety, on depression, OCD, and many other conditions. Jin Shin Jyutsu, or short JSJ, is a Japanese healing art that uses light touch on body and meridian points to support the body's self-regulation ability. And there is a simple yet really effective self-help tool that I enjoy recommending because it's been so helpful for many of my clients and it's super easy to do. If you would like to learn more about it, I have created a mini self-help kit together with Samatha Soul, an integrative medicine center, where I share how you can use your fingers to balance your feelings and emotions. So by holding specific fingers, you're balancing the related emotions. So for example, if you're worried about an upcoming presentation or exam, it helps to hold your left and your right thumb several minutes until the worry subsides. I've also shared a few of these techniques on my Instagram page, so I hope you give me a follow there too. Research has shown that the quality of our emotions directly impacts the pattern of the heart rhythm. And the HeartMath Institute has shown that various emotional states will lead to changes in the regularity of the heart rate variability, which is the beat-to-beat variation in the heart rate. And HRV is an important indicator of physiological resilience and behavioral flexibility, as well as a marker of biological aging. So someone who is angry has a very irregular, incoherent rhythm, whereas being in a state of uplifting emotions, such as gratitude or appreciation, will lead to a smooth, coherent heart rhythm pattern. And being able to generate prolonged positive emotional states supports psychophysiological coherence, meaning a balance between mental, emotional, and physiological processes. My favorite way of being with a feeling or an emotion is inner relationship focusing. The central idea behind focusing is that the body holds valuable information about a person's emotional experience. And by paying attention to the subtle body sensations that arise as a response to an inner experience, one can gain insights into their emotions and work through them in a gentle yet very effective way. It's a great way to find new ways of responding to a challenge one faces in life, and to also find answers that feel right for oneself. Focusing can be used to address a variety of emotional and psychological concerns, including depression, anxiety, trauma, and relationship issues. It's been beneficial for clients who have a strong inner critic, who want to develop a deeper understanding of their inner landscape, and who are looking for a safe way to process difficult emotions. It can be used as a standalone therapy or complementary therapeutic approach. For the last 2 years, a colleague of mine and I, we have offered the Empathic Listening Circle here in Singapore. What we do is we train people to improve their listening skills so they can be great listeners for each other in the circle, but also for others in their life. Having someone to listen to you with empathy encourages you to genuinely express what is alive in you right now and offers you the uninterrupted space to be with yourself. And being listened to without advice giving is a wonderful way to also find your own answers. When you start the journey of working on yourself, it is important to be disciplined, dedicated, and determined to practice one of these techniques, whichever you choose, regularly for at least 3 to 4 and some weeks and sometimes longer. Often our patterns are so deeply ingrained that it takes time to loosen up these structures that hold it in place and to establish a new way of being. So be patient and give every approach that you try out a fair chance, and accept that it might take a bit of exploring until you find what really works best for you. If you want to explore some of the approaches I shared in this episode, or if you have any questions around how to work through your challenges in life, feel free to contact me or ask questions below. And if you like this content, please subscribe to my channel, where I regularly post meditations with invitations to introspection, Q&A videos about relevant topics for your mental and emotional well-being. Thank you very much for being here with me today, and I hope until soon, take good care.